You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Incoming transmission.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed, that is right. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. The new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Thanks for joining us. We are looking into a new article. Well, not so new. It's like a week old or so, but it's a doozy. Came out from Medium, and I'd like to do a tip of the hat to a friend of mine, Mrs. Jenkins, for pointing this one out to us. So Medium.com has decided to take on the wall. Medium being what it is, a leftist rag, it's as cringy as you think it's going to be. So the article is called "What Happened When a Trump Supporter Challenged Me About the Wall" by Vicky Alvear Schechter, and I'm probably butchering that. Link in the description if you want to check this out, but we're going to go through it shot by shot. She gives a list of, like 11 different reasons why the wall won't work. And, she used, quote-unquote, conservative sources. That's right, conservative sources. Because, somebody who works for Medium actually knows what a conservative source looks like. You're not going to find the Washington Times, Breitbart, The Blaze, Drudge, or Lanterns, or Mojo 50, or anybody else that's on the radar. You're not going to see anything from Rush, or from Hannity, or from Fox. No, you're going to see the conservative outlets that they choose that happen to line up with their narrative. No matter how old the article is, no matter how different the article is. And they're going to draw their conclusions and try to paint it in a certain light so that you should see it their way. And you should see that a wall is a waste of time. We're going to take it apart piece by piece right here, right now on the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Let's just go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to go picture in picture with this sucker. If you're watching on Facebook.com, please do join us, Facebook.com/HoloNet, Facebook.com/Lanterns. It's also going to be available there on Twitter at the HoloNet, www.theholonet.com, and holonet.lanterns.buzz. You can also follow us and subscribe on Subscribestar. Link is going to be down below as well. We can use all the help that you can give us to fight the good fight. The road's getting bumpy. It's getting rough out here, but we're hanging on, man. We're hanging on. So we go to it right now. What happened when a Trump supporter challenged me about the wall by Vicky Alvear Schechter. A conservative challenged liberal Facebook friends to, quote, make a case not based on emotion against Trump's wall, because facts don't care about your feelings. Conservative buddies flooded his post with snide remarks about how this would be impossible for, quote, deluded libs. Judge for yourself. Okay, I'll play, I responded, and in order to avoid being accused of bias, which I'm going to accuse you of bias, I explained that I would only use conservative sources to prove my point. The primary source was a policy paper from the Cato Institute. Wait a minute. The Cato Institute? We need to get your nomenclature right here, Vicky. First and foremost, the Cato Institute, with all due respect, great group, great libertarian group, not conservative. Fact checking! Let's see about the Cato Institute. Let's learn about them right now, children. Oh, here's her article by David Beer, Why the Wall Won't Work. This appeared in a May 2017 issue of Reason. Reason, which is the flagship publication of the Libertarian Party. Hang on. We're getting there. Oh, where'd I go? I buried it. I did the bad thing that I wasn't supposed to do with the bad thing. Yeah. Anyway, Cato Institute, about Cato. Cato Institute is a libertarian think tank which is funded by the Koch brothers. I don't have any problem with all this. I like the Cato Institute when I'm looking for a libertarian opinion. Libertarian opinion, especially libertarian opinion back in 2017 following the Gary Johnson campaign and the others that arose, was strictly open border. So of course the Cato Institute and Reason would be putting out an anti-border piece. The Libertarian Party is anti-border wall. This is why libertarians differ from conservatives. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't play the game, Vicky. Libertarians are not conservatives. Libertarians work with conservatives. Conservatives work with libertarians because both have significant overlap. If you want to hear some awesome stuff about this, check out Defenders of American Exceptionalism next Wednesday. I'm going to be doing a guest spot with Stephen Airy there. And we're going to be taking apart somebody from the Heritage Foundation who thinks that libertarians and conservatives shouldn't chill, shouldn't be allied. I disagree. So, Cato Institute, great libertarian think tank, not a conservative think tank. Get your nomenclature correct. Of course, the Libertarian Party is against walls. Next site. Gonna have to give that back to PewDiePie. Here we go. A conservative right-wing think tank, along with other conservative voices. I'm gonna break my fingers from the air quotes. Here's why I'm against the wall. I wrote 1. Walls don't work. Illegal immigrants have tunneled underneath or erected ramps up and down walls or simply drive over them. People find a way. When East Germany erected its wall, it created a military zone staffed by booted machine gun... What do the boots have to do with anything? Booted machine gun carrying guards ready to shoot to kill. Yet thousands managed to make it to West Germany anyway. Mostly because we were smuggling them. More to the point, do we really want to model ourselves after communist East Germany? Hey! If I only had a brain. Yeah, that's a straw man, folks. Building a border fortification, a border wall, is not separating Berlin down the middle. Okay? This is not trapping people behind the Iron Curtain. False equivalency is false. Flag on the play. Let's move on. Now, for the record, by the way, walls do work. Ask the Israelis. They work like gangbusters, especially when they're patrolled by armed guards who are empowered to enforce the border. If border walls didn't work, why are the Palestinians so pissed all the time? Think about it. Most illegal immigrants are, quote, overstayers, end quote. They come to the U.S. legally for vacations, business, to study, etc., and then stay past their visas. By 2012, overstayers accounted for 58%, the majority of all unauthorized immigrants. A wall is meaningless here. Okay, 58% is totally accurate. And yes, they did bypass the wall. Here is where you have a problem. When they get caught, they get deported. Typically, they will smuggle themselves back in because they can no longer get into the United States legally once they've been deported for a passport overstay. So, recidivism is very common among people who are deported out of the United States due to a passport overstay. A wall is a hedge against recidivism. Because once they've overstayed their passport and got caught, they're not going to try the front door again. Are they, Vicky? Are they? And remember, this is the common fallacy that the left gives us, that the wall is the end-all, be-all, all-encompassing consummation of the border policy and immigration policy. It's not. It is a centerpiece. It is a very visible sign that we are becoming more serious about our border control. So moving right along. Walls have little impact on drugs being brought in the U.S. Now, I live in Arizona. Chapo's tunnels, that's a thing. But it makes it significantly harder to bring drugs into the United States. It is a deterrent. It is an impediment. It does not stop them entirely, but it certainly makes a difference. According to the DEA, almost all drugs come in through legal points of entry, hidden in secret containers or among legit goods on tractor trailers. A wall will have little to no impact on the influx of drugs in our country. Incorrect. Having a wall with fewer points of entry that are better developed, have more money flowing to them, more budget, and where the Border Patrol is able to reroute more labor to these ports of entry, as they do not need to patrol the outlying areas quite so heavily, creates additional force multipliers at these ports of entry. Increased technological presence, increased personnel availability, and of course, upgrades that would necessarily accompany the installation of increased border fortifications. All of these things equal out to more effective drug deterrence. Is it going to be 100% effective? No. You want to know why? People like blow. People like heroin. People like weed. They're going to find a way to get it in. If they need to launch it into space in a rocket that descends slowly to the earth with little parachutes of weed dropping down into your suburbanite neighborhood, into your gated community, so that way your hipster tweaker down the corner can get nice and burnt, it's gonna happen. The point is to deter, to inhibit, to make it so expensive to bring drugs into the United States that the profit motive is significantly lost. Remember, drug lords are capitalists by nature. Not all capitalists are drug lords, but all drug lords are capitalists. It's environmentally impractical. Walls have a hard time making it through extreme weather, not if you build them right. For example, in 2011, a flood in Arizona washed away 40-foot steel fencing. Yeah, that happens all the time here. Torrential rains and raging waters do serious damage. Also, conservative sources generally do not address the environmental harm the walls create, mainly because we don't give a crap. But there's plenty of documentation available that shows its potential for irreparable damage to both plant and animal life. Okay. You're cutting through some of the harshest terrain in the world. There is plant and animal life, but it is sparse. It is a very, very arid area where the ranges of animals are extremely large, where the plant life is very hardy. And in these situations, as someone who has spoken many times to the Arizona Department of Agriculture, there are laws in Arizona about moving these plant species, such as the saguaro cactus. There are set procedures that enable, for construction purposes, someone to move a saguaro safely. It is a violation of Arizona state law to transplant a saguaro cactus without following these procedures and precepts. So what are you complaining about? Are you disrupting migratory patterns? Are you inhibiting the hunting range of the Mexican gray wolf, which has now been reintroduced on both sides of the border? Are you talking about the mating habits of coyotes? Maybe cougars? What are you getting at here? It's the desert. I know. I live here. Build the wall. Maybe some of the animals will appreciate the shade. As far as the storms, yeah, it's Arizona, baby. That happens, okay? You build it strong enough, you build it tall enough, you build it smart enough, it's going to weather the storm. You go lowest common bidder, you cheap out, it's going down like Chinatown. A wall would force the U.S. government to take land from private citizens in eminent domain battles. Oh, you mean like a little old lady having her house knocked down in Atlantic City to build a parking lot? Yeah, President Trump's sure uncomfortable with that process. I'll wait. Anyway, private citizens own much of the land slated for the wall. The costs of the government snatching private land and the legal battles that would ensue are incalculable. Yes and no. Again, nuance, people, nuance. How many of these border ranchers have been crying out for the government to do something? Go down to Yuma and talk to some of those ranchers. Go down south to Tucson, out to Lukeville, down to Ajo, and see if those border ranchers don't want something done. How many of them would readily give up a couple of parcels that are right along the border that, you know what, they can't use anyway because the coyotes, I'm not talking about the little orange ones either, I'm talking about the smugglers, the human traffickers, they'll kill them. They will kill them for going on their own property, because there are parts of the southern border of the United States where United States law enforcement has no power, where they are no factor. There are parts of this country that already are in fact lock, stock, and barrel occupied by the drug cartels and the human traffickers. Again, ask me how I know. I live here. Yeah. Hang on, where does this person live? I gotta see this. Is she a New Yorker? She's probably a New Yorker. I'm gonna bet she's a New Yorker. Seems northeast. I'm from Jersey, I can tell. Oh, God. Number 6. Border Patrol agents don't like concrete or steel walls because they block surveillance capabilities. Ugh. Let's work this one through logically, okay? Have you ever seen, like, the FLIR systems and the UV systems, the heat sensing systems at the border checkpoints? The way these devices are built, they're on these large elevators. They look like a scissor lift, kind of. They're these mobile observation posts. They go up about 40 feet into the air, and they point these sensors at the border, and they're able to detect people coming across through their ultraviolet thermal radiation, through radar. They have pressure sensors that are scattered over the floor of the border area. But did you remember the important thing that I mentioned about these mobile observation posts? What was it? They're 40 feet in the air. How about that, huh? A lot of the equipment that our agents need to surveil the border, it needs to be elevated. So what we're using right now are mobile, temporary structures, these mobile surveillance posts or observation posts that scissor lift 40 feet up in the air. They have these 4 stabilizing pads that come out. They usually have a generator attached to them if there's not local power available, and they utilize their radar and their ultraviolet imaging. Wouldn't it be easier to build a nice big wall that has an integrated electrical system, potentially some more advanced defensive measures, and put your sensor package on top of the wall? Maybe you even have guard towers spaced out every, I don't know, quarter mile, half mile, in visual range of each other. Think Gitmo, okay? Where they can see each other and look out over the border area. How did this make the least amount of sense when she wrote it? Border Patrol agents don't like concrete or steel walls because they block surveillance capabilities. In other words, they can't mobilize correctly to meet challenges. So in many ways, a wall makes their job more difficult. I'm not seeing it. Okay? Border Patrol agents say walls are meaningless without agents and technology to back them up. Are we prepared to pour countless billions annually after the wall is built? Yes. To create a nearly 2,000-mile militarized 24-hour border surveillance operation? Yes. Because according to patrol agents, that's the only way a wall would work. Again, put on the Barry White music because she's got it right, man. Are we, again, really going to use East Germany, a brutal communist state, as our model here? If I only had a brain. Trotted out the straw man again. Now, on this note, I'm going to toss you some audio here real quick from the head of the U.S. Border Patrol. She was on Neil Cavuto saying how we need a wall.
U.S. Border Patrol Chief Carla Provost, Ms. Provost, by the way, is in the middle of all of this because this is all over funding for that wall. The president insisting that if push came to shove, yeah, he would shut the government down. It's that important to him. $5 billion is a good step in that direction. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you, Neil, that we certainly do need a wall. If you talk to any Border Patrol agent, they will tell you that. This is something that we've been doing for the last 30 years. We have identified across the entire southwest border areas that wall makes sense, and I have prioritized that based on the operational requirements from my field leadership.
So, Chief, could I a couple of dumb questions, but you're patient with my dumb questions. And one is that it doesn't have to be a wall. I understand that through the whole border, but it has to be very secure and much firmer than some of the fencing we have now. And I'm told separately that the $5 billion that the president is looking for is actually a continuing down payment on something that will ultimately be closer to $25 billion.
We have identified mileage that goes beyond the $5 billion, but like I said, we've prioritized it. So no matter what funding I get, I am ready to work on putting the wall where we need it.
So would the wall do something that existing structures don't? And I know there are vast areas, particularly along Texas and Arizona, where there's no such thing. Are you confident that it would keep illegals out?
It is much more sophisticated than what you're showing actually right now. That's old landing mat fencing that we put up years ago. And it is certainly not what my men and women need to work effectively and safely along the border. The new wall system integrates technology with the wall, and it is a much sturdier. It has anti-dig features with it. It has detection technology and is set to attach additional technology to it. So it's really a border wall system.
I got it.
I'm speechless. She just said they're gonna. There's sensors integrated into the walls, and it's got anti-dig features and. Come on. Links in the description, by the way, for all these. Tell your friends, if they run across this story, that it's crap. Walls are meaningless without agents. Of course they are. We know that. Anyway. Oh, and look at that. Extra points. Who had this on their bingo card? Picture of the Soviet Union. There we go. 1979 celebration in East Berlin. Yeah, there we go. 8. Where walls have been built, there was, quote, no discernible impact on the influx of unauthorized aliens. In other words, they came in elsewhere, primarily where natural barriers such as water or mountainous regions precluded a wall. Yes, because ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough to keep me from you, baby. Yeah, mountains make it a little hard. Arizona's mountainous region. Water, like in San Diego, makes it a little hard. That's why the Border Patrol has swift boats. How is this a reason? Yeah, they come in over the mountains. It's really tragic, but they're probably going to die because those mountains are very unforgiving. I'm sure there are countless bodies there, and it is particularly tragic. So what I would do in this situation, since the mountain sits on the border, I would call on the Mexican government to prevent access to the mountain from their side, or we can actually put a wall, stay with me now, around the mountain. Limit access that way. Also, a lot of these mountain ranges are either on U.S. federal government property. Out here in Arizona, it is called the Barry Goldwater Air Force Bombing Range, because that's where we go to bomb things and practice. Or it's on the land of the Tohono O'odham Reservation, who, of course, would prohibit those types of structures from being built around the mountains because they consider them sacred. So this would really fall to the Mexican government to keep their people safe in this regard and prevent them from climbing mountains that will kill them. Yeah. So trying to cross a valley where there's no fence, where you can get across pretty easily, but the desert might kill you, or trying to cross a mountain which will definitely kill you, I don't think we're going to have a lot of problems picking people off the mountains. 9, unintended consequence is that a wall blocks farm workers from exiting when their invaluable seasonal work is done. Farmers are against the wall. Again, I've checked her cited articles. I've got them up here. I don't see what the hell she's talking about. Farmers are against the wall because it makes getting cheap seasonal labor almost impossible, as few American citizens want or can even do those jobs. And if seasonal worker do get in, that's not even good English. Where's your editor? Look, read this sentence. And if seasonal worker do get in, editor at Medium, you're fired. A wall makes it harder for them to leave. A wall traps migrant farm laborers in our country. Hang on. If a migrant farm worker is in the country legally on a work pass, they come in through port of entry, they go back out through port of entry. They come in through port of entry, they go back out through port of entry. What this prevents is illegal farm workers from going in and out, and traps them within the country until they get picked up by Border Patrol and deported. So, unintended consequence is intended consequence. Legal farm workers and seasonal workers will have no problem getting to and from because they're legal. Stay with me. I know these are complex concepts, Vicky. All right. Trump's $5 billion is a laughable drop in the bucket for what would actually be needed. For example, according to the Cato Institute, an estimate for the border wall that only covers 700 miles was originally $1.2 billion. How much did it really cost? $7 billion. And that's only for 700 miles. Whatever we think it's going to cost, experience shows us we have to multiply it by more than 500%. As said during the Cavuto interview, hat tip to Fox and Friends on that one, link in the description for that. Yeah, we know. The $5 billion is a down payment to get started. And President Trump has also given the indication that he is willing to pull the necessary funding from Homeland Security and also from the military to make this happen. So the $5 billion is to get the ball rolling in a strong way. 11. According to MIT engineers, the wall will cost $31.2 billion, worth every penny. Homeland Security estimates it at $22 billion, given the pattern of spending mentioned in number 10, plus Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will? Okay. That means we're really talking about pouring endless billions into something that doesn't even work. You haven't proven that yet. And of course, we taxpayers will be footing the bill, not Mexico. President Trump has repeatedly said that through the new Canamex Treaty, actually, I think I'm getting that wrong. The MCA, rather. Mexico-Canada-America Treaty. The United States will recover enough in trade revenues gained and job gains where it will pay for the wall several times over. I don't get why any reporter who wasn't in the president's impromptu press conference this past week, just couldn't get that through their skulls. And they asked him the question like 5 friggin' times when he explained that the MCA is going to improve the trade imbalance between the United States and Mexico and put us on more favorable terms, bring jobs back to the United States, and that will thus pay for the wall. But why are taxpayers paying for it? Because it's going to come out of federal spending, which will then be replenished by the increased trade and increased jobs. Don't you see how it works? Anyway, given all the drawbacks, is it really the best use of our taxes? Yes. If we're able to strongly reduce the amount of illegals that are posing a drain on the system. Let's see, GAO.gov. Let's actually look at the government here. The variation in the estimates of national net cost of illegal aliens. One study included costs of $3.9 billion for benefits, such as education, provided to U.S. citizens of children of illegal aliens, and the other 2 studies did not include these costs. In addition, 2 studies that included costs of estimates of Social Security costs, $3.3 billion versus 0, differed in their approaches to this item. Better data and clearer explanations of which costs are appropriate would help improve the usefulness of the estimates. Size of the population, eligibility for federal types. Let's see here. National net cost. 3 studies have estimated national net cost of illegal aliens, have generated considerable media attention, public discussion. Okay. Donald Huddle estimated national net costs to the federal, state, and local governments was $11.9 billion in 1992. This was followed by an Urban Institute review of Huddle's work, which adjusted his costs and revenue estimates and estimated a much lower net cost of $1.9 billion. Huddle subsequently produced an updated estimate in 1993 of $19.3 billion. So if we look at the estimates here, we're talking in excess of anywhere ranging from $1.9 billion to $19 billion just from one set of data. And again, this is from the early 1990s. Okay, and the costs vary very widely. This I will also include a link in the description from the Government Accountability Office. But just the item total for food stamps was $3.9 billion. That's insane. So the costs are there. If we're able to eliminate this dependency from illegal aliens on the American welfare system, on the entitlement system, yes, it absolutely does pay for itself over time. Worth every penny. All right. So what happened after I posted this conservative source, fact-based list of why the wall's a bad idea? Silence. I waited for someone to respond, to engage with me. Where were the angry defenses or rebuttals? When I searched the post after a few days, I couldn't find it. My Facebook friend had deleted it. You could say, like Trump with the government, he shut me down rather than deal with the facts. Consider yourself rebutted, Vicky. I'm Matt Holloway, HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. I'll try to tweet her. Send her my little response. When we come back, we're going to talk about some unfortunate news coming from the Blaze, also regarding our Border Patrol. If you want to stay with us, you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/HoloNet, Twitter, Twitter at the HoloNet, holonet.lanterns.buzz, and we're available where all great podcasts are found. Take a quick break. Stick with me. Be right back.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
All right, you're listening to HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. I am going to drop a little bit of wisdom on you today. We've made some big changes on the holonet.com, and you'll be able to find them right about down here in this region here, below all of our stories. And when you're reading a story on the holonet.com, boom, you've got our related products, which you can pick up. These are conservative tomes. These are the sources of our knowledge when it comes to the conservative movement here in the United States, and some of them are just good fun. You'll see here the Constitution of the State of Arizona. You can pick that up. Biopic on Ted Kennedy, Identity Crisis, the 2016 presidential campaign, Rules for Radicals Defeated, and Understanding the Arizona Constitution. Now, these are ads by Amazon. Full disclosure, when you purchase something off of Amazon.com on the HoloNet, that does go towards supporting our page, supporting our content. So please, make sure you check that out on the holonet.com. And now, here's the really cool part, our recommended reading list. Now, I posted this back on Facebook a while back, and here we have all the must-haves. The Constitution of the United States and the Federalist Papers, the Bible Promise Book, New World Translation of the Bible, and holy crap, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Jerry Doyle, Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly. There's a lot of Beck on here. I read a lot of his stuff. Dinesh D'Souza, Greg Gutfeld, and of course Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. If you want to pick up any of these recommended books, you can do that on the holonet.com/p/Matt's reading list, or just go to the holonet.com, click recommended reading. Finally, to take on a little tour here to the special offers section on the holonet.com. We have a free trial from Audible. You get 2 free audiobooks. You can start your free month of Amazon Prime Video. You can download free Kindle reading app and get $3 towards your ebooks. Or start your free trial, your free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime. That's right, the HoloNet is now a member of the Amazon affiliate program. So please, if you want to check out any of those great services, go to holonet.com, click special offers, and get that today. That's on the holonet.com. Now back to the show.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Thanks for sticking with us through the medium rebuttal against Ms. Vicky. I don't think they're going to take very kindly to that. We'll see what happens. But I did want to take you real quick to a story breaking on the Blaze. This is new here. Assaults against Border Patrol agents soar 300% since the caravan's arrival. Link in the description. Figure contrasts percentage from last year at San Diego crossing. Reported by Terry Webster, assaults on U.S. Border Patrol agents have increased 300% over last year at San Diego border crossing, according to figures released by the San Diego Border Sector Chief, Rodney Scott. When did this start? Violence against agents began rising when the migrant caravan first arrived at Tijuana in late November, KGTV TV reported. One of the latest incidents happened on New Year's Eve when a migrant threw a rock that hit a border agent in the face. Link to that story as well from 10 News, when 150 immigrants attempted to climb the border fence and threw rocks. This was on New Year's Day. Oh, it happened New Year's Eve at an unspecified time. Another 150 migrants tried to climb the border fence in San Diego. Agents used pepper spray, upwind, and tear gas at the migrants to try and deter them from throwing the rocks. Border Patrol said the measures weren't aimed at the migrants and successfully suppressed the rock throwers, causing them to flee the area. So, a total of 25 migrants were apprehended under California Highway Patrol's use of force policy. The incident is being reviewed. Incident comes on the heels of another recent event at the border, which hundreds of migrants attempted to rush the border at San Ysidro, which the HoloNet covered. So, yeah, this is what's happening at the border due to the migrant caravan. And there's another 15,000 on their way up from Honduras as of last week, also covered here on the HoloNet. These incursions are organized. They're bringing people down there for the express purpose of provoking confrontation, Border Patrol agent Joshua Wilson told the news outlet. He also said that incidents offer enough proof for why a border wall is needed. What, Vicky? What? Border Patrol agents don't think... Oh. Quote, having that barrier helps prevent many assaults on agents, and that's something the public really needs to understand, Wilson added. It's not just a border security measure, it's a measure for agents' safety as well. Because, man, throw a rock up a 40-foot wall, you need an arm, man. You need a cannon. Never mind getting them into the country. We need to get them into the NFL. Enrique Morones, founder of the pro-migrant group Border Angels, told KGTV that his organization condemns the violence. He also placed the blame on Border Patrol agents, because of course he did. If you're going to be across the border to seek asylum, why in the world would you be throwing rocks at the Border Patrol, Morones said. The people have been reacting to the Border Patrol violence of tear gassing and shooting rubber bullets at migrants. Rules of engagement, they don't fire unless fired upon. Border Patrol told the TV station that it does not release actual number of border incidents, just a percentage of the increase or decline. Goes on to talk about the border shutdown, yada, yada, yada. So, migrant caravans are coming up from Middle and Central and South America. Each time, we see an increase in violence along the southern border. This is coming to a head, folks. This is why a border wall is absolutely necessary, despite what our esteemed colleagues over at Medium have to say about it. Despite even their using conservative sources. Our Border Patrol agents' lives are at risk. Our citizens' lives are at risk. And the situation brooks no further delay. President Trump today announced that he would invoke a national emergency in order to avail himself of the power to deal with this directly as President of the United States. This is a negative prospect. I've seen Star Wars Episode 2. Misa recommend we vote the Chancellor emergency powers. And Jar Jar Binks screws the whole universe. Thank you, Emperor Palpatine. I will return these powers when this crisis has abated, because the crisis never abates. Now, in the ancient Roman days, there weren't emperors. At least not as we understand them now. In the old Roman Republic, there was a leader that was chosen during a time of crisis who was given extraordinary powers to take actions that otherwise could not be accomplished. Under the best possible circumstances, this could work. But it requires the very best of us in order to proceed. And even with the most virtuous possible person, there's always going to be that nagging question, that doubt. Will they put back the power once it is no longer needed? So I implore, I abjure our Congress to act, to pass this funding for the wall, to pass this funding for border security as a whole, wherein the wall is merely the centerpiece, merely the figurehead of a greater border security package. As it has always been. It is part and parcel. It is a piece of the puzzle. It is not the consummation, the end-all, be-all of the ideal border policy, and it never has been. That's a very facile way to look at things. Very simplified, to placate the masses, to whip them up into a fervor. very good for election years, very bad for having an intellectually valid conversation. But who wants those any longer? Who wants an intelligent, honest assessment of the situation when we can, as Vicky's friends cautioned against, let ourselves be ruled by emotion? Arizona needs a secure border. Texas and New Mexico need a secure border. As much as it pains me to say, even California needs a secure border. The United States needs a secure border. This is the challenge of our time. Will we assert and uphold our sovereignty as a nation? This is similar to Brexit. Great Britain is suffering an existential dilemma right now. Will they assert and defend their national sovereignty and integrity against a self-inflicted wound, which was the EU? They hurt themselves by getting involved with the EU, but they voted on Brexit to correct that mistake. The United States, through numerous failed border policies over the course of the last 100 years, since the stabilization of the Mexican government, I'm doing that too much today. I'm going to put a veto on myself using air quotes for a while. But since the days of Pancho Villa, there have been failed border policy after failed border policy after failed border policy. Operation Wetback under Eisenhower. Spectacular failure. Good idea, but you just shipped a whole bunch of illegal immigrants back, and then you left the door open for them to come back in. Made no sense. President Ronald Reagan's great lament and great regret was the Reagan, what do they call that? Sorry, the Reagan policy on immigration. I can't think of the word right now. The word presently escapes me. But his alleviation, his appeasement on that. The Clinton years followed. The Obama administration was a bloody nightmare, even though he deported more than many previous presidents. You don't see that in his library, do you? We need to get this right in order to uphold our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, and our socioeconomic stability. Yes, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I hold aloft my lamp beside the golden door. But you have to come through the door. You don't bust the window and climb inside. You don't clamber over the fence. You don't stick your head through the doggy door. I was watching Home Alone recently. You hold your lamp aloft beside the golden door. And if you come through the door the right way, I welcome you. But this, we must secure our nation's borders. Because a nation without borders is not a nation at all. In the days of homesteading, here in Arizona and throughout the West, where ironically the government owns the biggest homesteads of all, the determination of whether or not you could have your homesteaded property was if you could fence it in and build. Think about that. The legal definition of whether or not you had control over a property was your ability to fence it in, to prevent the unwanted ingress or egress of persons. Do we not, as a people, as citizens of the United States, do we not own our country? As if we do not, as a group, as a populace, own our country, own our nation, if we cannot, at minimum, fence it in and meet the most basic requirement of making our nation our homestead. I was watching this weekend. I was binge watching, I'll admit it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's an HBO special that I didn't pay much mind to when it came out because I think I was fresh out of high school. But it stars Paul Giamatti and Laura Linney. It's John Adams. And it is a particularly excellent miniseries. I recommended this to my friend Stephen Airy, Defenders of American Exceptionalism, and I hope he watches it. But I'm not going to sit here and cling to it for its historicity, or however you say that, historical accuracy, as I'm certain they took liberties. But it helped rejuvenate my passion and my patriotism. And I recommend you check it out if you haven't had the opportunity to, or read something, or watch something that kindles that fire within you, that love of our country. There's a quote from the movie, and I'm going to butcher it. As I butcher quotes. It's what I do. That's why I tell you, find it online yourself. Toward the end of the movie, after John Adams has died. Spoiler alert, he dies. But after he dies, he says that we've been given a republic. We've been given our freedom. They fought for our freedom. And he hopes we use it well. For if we should not, if we do not use our freedom well, then he will deny in heaven that he went through such pains for us to have it. And watching, granted, a dramatization of the pains that he and that Mrs. Adams and their family went through during the course of our revolution, and the precious blood that was spilled by our forefathers in order to bring about this free nation that we have, and the moral challenges, the gray area that they had to navigate that racked their souls, the later prices that had to be paid, the War of 1812, which is often called the Second Revolutionary War, which tested us in the fires of Britain's burning of the White House, the Civil War, where we paid a horrible weregild, a price in blood, a penance for the crime of slavery. All these things we are called upon to live up to the sacrifices that our previous generations made to bring about this nation, to protect it, to secure it, to make it whole again, to pay penance for its past sins in the precious blood that was spilt in the Civil War, still the highest casualty war in American history. For the greatest generation who are now rapidly dying out among us, who fought to preserve it in the face of fascism and communism. That is the standard we must hold ourselves to when defending the sovereignty and the freedom of our nation. With that, good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States. From Phoenix, I'm Matt Holloway.